Hello and welcome to this video, and our focus here is to learn about a collection data type in Python called the tuple, or I have heard other people pronounce it as tuple, so it depends on where you come from. So if you hear tuple or tuple, you know I'm talking about the same thing. Okay, so tuples are collection data types that are first of all ordered. So by ordered, what I mean is that the items in the collection have definite ordering. So what comes before an item has a place and a reason why it is there, and it affects how we read those values. Okay. And the second thing about tuples is that they are immutable. And by immutable, what I mean is once you create them, you cannot change the values in the tuples. There are workarounds, but technically, it is not permitted by the Python programming language to be able to modify tuples. Okay. All right, so let me use an example as always to explain to you how to create tuples and how to read values from it. So you use tuples to store a collection of related information. Okay, so I'm going to use an example of a student record. So let's say we have two students. The first one is Cyberpunk. Okay, and then we want to store, for each student, we want to store their first name, their last name, their age, and course of study. Okay, so the way we do that with tuples is you start a bracket and you close it, and that is what delimits tuples in Python. And then you put in your values in the order in which you want them to be. So I want the first name first, so let's say Cyberpunk's first name is Edward and the last name is Pi, and let's say the age is 56, and let's say Cyberpunk is studying, of course, computer science. So computer science. Okay, and then let's create another student record for, let's say, Moon Tiger. So the almighty Moon Tiger has the first name of Kofi, and the last name is Asante, and let's say he is 23 years old, and he is studying let's say psychology. I hope I'm spelling that right. Psychology. Maybe I've gotten it wrong, but it doesn't really matter here. I feel there is an H in here. Okay, so let's say this is the correct spelling of psychology. Now you can see that on the left, Cyberpunk is a variable. You know that by now. But on the right, the way we have created the value that is stored in the variable is what makes it a tuple. And like I said, first of all, they are delimited by the start and closing brackets, and then you put the items you want in the tuple in order and you separate them by commas. And so what we can do first of all is to print the type of the variables so that we can verify that indeed they are tuples. Okay, so I'm going to print the type for Cyberpunk, and I'm going to print the type for Moon Tiger as well. So Moon Tiger is over here, and then I will come to the terminal and run this program. So Python 3 tuples.py, and you can see that indeed the type for both Cyberpunk and Moon Tiger is the class tuple. So that is how Python calls this type of collection data type. Okay, so now that we know how to create them, the question is, how do we use them? Well, if I just print out, let's say, Cyberpunk, let's see what output we are going to get. So when you print out a tuple, you get, the tuple itself, and so it shows you all the values or the items that are in the tuple. But how do we access individual items in the tuple? For example, if I want just the first name for Cyberpunk, how do I get that? If I want just the last name, how do I get it? If I want the age, if I want the course of study, how do I get that? Well, the way you do that is to use indices. Okay, so the items in a tuple are identified using indices, and those indices start from 0. So the first item in Cyberpunk has the index 0. Okay, It is 0 because computers start counting from 0. Mostly in programming, most of the counting start from 0. So you want to get used to that from this time going. And so the first item is at index 0. The second item is at index 1. The third is at index 2. And the fourth is at index 3. The fourth is the entire computer science thing over here. Okay. The same thing applies to Moon Tiger. And so if I want to print out just the first name of Cyberpunk, the way you use the index to retrieve a value from a tuple is to use the square bracket. So you bring a square bracket and then you specify the index of the tuple that you want to be able to retrieve. Remember that I told you that tuples are immutable, so you cannot change. Once I have created Cyberpunk, it is not possible for me to change what is at index 0, 1, 2, or 3. I cannot change them. Okay, so if I do this and I print it here, you can see that I get Edward for the item at index 0. Okay, so if I want to break these into their various components, what I can do is I can say f name. I'm using that for first name, so I'm getting Cyberpunk's first name. I can say l name is equal to Cyberpunk, and then I will do 1, and then I will say age is equal to Cyberpunk 2, that's the index 2, and then I'll say cost is equal to Cyberpunk 3. So I can now use the printf to construct a very nice message and print everything. Okay, so I can say details is equal to, then I'm going to use the printf over here, and with this printf I want to make a multi-line. So remember how we delimit multi-line text. So I can say first name is equal to, and then I'll put f name in here, and then I can come here and say last name is equal to l name over here. I don't need a comma, so I'm just putting it there to make it look nice. I say age, and then I'll put age in here, and finally I'll say cost, and I'll put the cost in here. Okay, so this time I can print details, and we should see the individual items in the tuple being printed out nicely for us. So I do this, and now I come to the terminal. Let me clear, and then we run it again, and you can see that indeed the first name is Edward, the last name is Pi, the age is 56, and the cost, oh sorry, so the cost should be 0, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so I didn't print the cost, I used age instead of cost. All right, so I'm going to clear, and then we can see it again that indeed we are able to access the individual items in the tuple using the indices. This is it for this class. Let's take a quick pause, and then I will see you in the next video.